Welcome to the IFA Product Spotlight. In this episode, we're busting some of the more common myths around investment bonds and shedding light on how they can be used to provide tax-effective financial outcomes for investors. For those seeking alternatives or additional avenues for tax optimization to accumulate wealth, investment bonds emerge as a compelling solution. To tell us more, we're joined by Grant Hackett, Chief Executive Officer of Generation Life. Welcome, Grant.
Thanks very much for having me, Keith.
Not a problem. Grant, can you tell us more about investment bonds, what they are, and any recent innovations that Generation Life has begun?
Well, the way I like to think of an investment bond, it's just another legal structure to invest through, but similar to superannuation, it's an after-tax paying structure. So from an investment point of view, you often think, do I invest through my own name, a company name? Do I invest through my superannuation, perhaps a trust structure? An investment bond is just another legal structure to invest through. And depending on your circumstances, it might produce better after-tax performance than what you would have otherwise. In terms of some of the innovations, we've innovated around our tax optimized series where, our effective tax rates for a lot of our investors sit between 12 to 15%, so a great tax arbitrage in there. The other aspect is estate planning because of binding nominations, so therefore great for very wealthy families or families with high conflict or blended families, so great to be able to pass on that wealth to the next generation. And the third part that I love about them is the fact that they're creditor protected as well. So you've got the asset protection, the tax arbitrage, and the estate planning benefits attached to the product.
So what are some of the common misconceptions around investment bonds, and why should investment bonds be considered from a wealth accumulation and estate planning perspective?
Some of the misconceptions are probably limited investment choice or the product was expensive. And these used to be, I guess, some of the legacy issue of the product because these have been around for decades. So often enough, providers would have 4 or 5 investment options and it would be quite expensive in terms of fees. So even though you were saving a lot of money on tax, you weren't necessarily getting it back in the return. Times have changed now where, you've got every asset class, multiple options within each. On our investment menu alone, there's 66 options to be able to choose from. So you're not short of any investment choice. Tiered pricing structure, so the more you invest, the cheaper it is, and it's just a basic administration fee, and you get all of those product features that you can get from an estate planning point of view through to what we have around the tax optimized series. We also really manage that after-tax performance a lot more now. So, a headline rate of tax of around 30%, usually with your add-backs like income management, franking that everybody knows, gets you down to the low 20s. But in terms of the capital management that we have at Generation Life, that really gets you down to that 12 to 15% effective tax rate. Therefore, you get to keep that return and get the compounding effect of that over time. So certainly been a lot of innovations, and we'll continue to do more and more over time as well as we work with financial advisors and their clients.
What advantages do investment bonds offer over superannuation, especially in the context of the proposed doubling of the tax for superannuation earnings exceeding $3 million? And how can they complement traditional superannuation strategies for wealth accumulation and intergenerational wealth transfer?
First and foremost, I never say even though we're a product manufacturer and you want to talk about your own product, it's not the silver bullet. It's a combination of all of these products that really matter. So when you look at superannuation, it's obviously a fantastic vehicle for saving for retirement. It's highly tax effective. You've got your super guarantees flowing in there. So all of those things are great. But in terms of the changes to superannuation, in terms of total balance in super, which of course changed in 2017, balances above 3 million, soon it's to be legislated that they will receive double taxation on unrealised gains, and that $3 million threshold at this stage won't be indexed. So then you start to look at other structures like investment bonds where you go, well, this can really complement what I'm doing inside my superannuation. It can bring down my overall taxation between the two products if I've got a large balance above 3 million. Also, the other aspect is you've got full liquidity. So superannuation, of course, you can only access that at preservation age and meeting the conditions of release, where if you set up an investment bond last week, you've got a great tax arbitrage, but you can also access those funds without any penalty at any point in time. So there are some nuances between super and of course, the investment bond, and advantages and disadvantages of both. But it's really having a combination of all products to derive the best overall outcome that we really talk about at Generation Life.
So what are the benefits of using investment bonds as a strategy to minimize the impact of bracket creep, especially in light of the stage 3 tax cuts that are being legislated?
Yeah, I think tax has really become front and center in terms of the conversation right now. And stage 3 tax cuts, of course, did that, where they did reintroduce the 37 cents plus, the 2% Medicare levy. So you're really talking a 39 cents in the dollar tax bracket for that sort of mid-tier of income earners. So I think for us, when you look at an investment bond, because it's an internally tax-paid instrument, so it doesn't produce capital gains or income. So, even if your investment's growing at 8 or 9% per year, your wage is going up. So if your wage is going up, therefore you're going up to the next tax bracket. It's really important that your investment income is not adding to that as well and pushing you up faster and quicker, and you're paying more tax per dollar. Because what's really important about bracket creep is, my overall tax rate for, say, I'm earning $150,000 a year under these new proposed stage 3 tax cuts, or now been legislated, they're not proposed anymore, means I'm having an average tax rate of 26%. However, for each new dollar that comes in the door, I'm actually paying 39 cents of that away in tax and the Medicare levy. Whereas if I had that investment perhaps inside the investment bond, I could be paying an effective tax rate of 12 to 15% and not adding to that $150,000 of income I might be earning each year. And the fact you could be relatively young, you could have another 15, 20 or 25 years left in your working life, you're just going to be moving up, even if you're not getting promoted, just with wage inflation. So you're going to be paying more and more tax all the time. So it's really important when you're setting up even your first investment that you're thinking of, what's my future tax position look like? And if I can incubate some of my investment over here and not add to my taxable income, it's a great strategy to be able to grow your overall wealth.
What's the significance of financial advisors in helping investors navigate the different tax structures and achieve a thriving financial future?
So it's such a complex system here in Australia. There are so many nuances, changing thresholds all the time. Stage 3 tax cuts. If you walk down the street and ask someone, well, what are the changes and how do they affect you? And they probably look at you blindly. How much of your super is going each month, into your default super fund? And what is your default super fund? And what does that performance look like? What's the difference between deductible and non-deductible debt? Like, all of these things are so important yet so confusing. So I think at the end of the day, you've got to surround yourself by great people. And by that, I mean a great financial advisor that can actually help you set yourself up for down the line. So even if you're not making a lot of money now, having the right plan in place to make sure that you're investing wisely, that you're using things like, your super properly, your investment bond properly, making sure you're saving for your house in the most tax effective way possible to get that home deposit and, to live the Aussie dream, so to speak. You want to make sure you've got good guidance around that. So getting really good financial advice and surrounding yourself by people that can actually support what you're trying to achieve in terms of growing your overall wealth is super important and something we always encourage.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining the show, Grant.
Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. And thank you, everyone, for watching along. Hopefully, you'll join us next time as well.